This time of year, there's tons of expectations, what we're all waiting for with the turn of the cold. Well, we want some snow. Obviously, it's football time, and well, my favorite team has gotten a little bit further than it has in the last several decades. And the other thing is looking for something to heat things up, and well, this week's offering certainly does that. Hey, welcome to this edition of Road Warrior. I'm your host, Grant Roberson. Now, heating things up this week is specifically the all-new 2021 BMW M440i. Pretty much reminding us of what neck snapping fun is, but we did give pause and actually take a look at all the safety features, because at the end of the day, staying safe is what it's all about. Before we get into some of the safety features on the 440, let's talk about what we see on the outside. First off, really at the grill warfare. Throwback Thursday nostalgia with the kidney-shaped grills we're all come to love. Well, that's been transformed just a hair with the vertical placement like we see here. As for the rest of the design, you could argue this is a little bit of a plain Jane compared to some of the competition, but I like the overall approach. Nice tight body lines, barely any chiseling. Instead of that, we have more of a ripple effect seen across the hood and sweeping down the sides. I'm not a big fan of lower ground effects, kind of go too far back to the 80s. This one, again, avoiding itself of that, really tapering quite nicely on the side and barely stretching out there in the front. Now, when it comes to overall numbers, this coupe comes in quite lengthy, giving my lanky frame pretty good comfort on the inside, but certainly for this coupe, it's not really just about the front occupants. You could throw some in the back in a pinch, really giving you a 2+2 design with something called legroom numbers. Not too shabby in the back. Now, by the numbers, you're looking at about 188 inches overall. Wheelbase fairly stretched at 112. Width around about 6 feet and 54 inches tall. As for track, going to find a slightly more narrow track in the front versus the back by about 1.5 inches wider there at the rear end. If you really want to have some fun, go to BMW's website and do a custom build of one of these. Of course, allows you to pick all the numerous options, really the longest list being what you see at the four corners. Now, what we have here, specifically 19-inch wheels, 225/40s wrapping in the front, 255/35s wrapping here in the wheel, kind of with this nice smoky accented non-blinged out chrome, really more of a matte finish two-tone approach, but again, with the multitude of options, you can dress these up however you like. Now, what I do like, of course, is that open face look, obviously showing off those huge disc brakes and those nice adorned blue brake calipers. And obviously this came with the X-Drive system, which gives us the grip at the four corners. One of the first takeaways I had with the BMW really was the safety systems, and they kind of go without notice really until you need them. Now, what you're going to first see is the typical blind spot awareness, really letting you know where everyone is, even if you see them or not. Obviously at the front and the back, front camera, back camera, parking sensors at both ends, really a radar-like feel. Now, we did not have the surround view on this vehicle, no cameras mounted on the side, but with its overall size and its 360 view from the cockpit, really not needed. But everything else that we don't see is under the skin. Really safety features at the back, possibly for any impact, really huge amount of safety built under the skin, a lot stiffer than you think. Naturally seeing it along the side and as well as at the front. Those are systems that we never want to see, never even know about, but they're there technically when you need them. Now, additional safety features are found up here. Before we get there, let's talk about this design. Obviously that vertical grille, contrasting that nostalgic Throwback Thursday, really horizontal penetrating lights that really illuminate quite a distance on the front. Now, these have the smart technology, obviously, really coming right down to the auto bright, auto off, and I had that on quite religiously, really allowing this vehicle to brighten things up in an instance when you need it. Now, as for airflow, really you could say it's all about gobbling it up here in the front, certainly in traditional sense, down low and here on the outer sides, tucking in where it needs it and tucking around, really penetrating right through here and dumping out here in the wheel wells. Next is safety. Now I talked about the parking sensors, but you could say it's also about the radar. Radar built in right up here in the front, and that's noticeable there by the pilot right there behind the steering wheel. Give you a nice view of what's going on around you. And what I noticed is when you're centered, let's say on a 3-lane road, it lets you know visually of what's around you. What you're going to see on that screen is maybe a car on your left, car on the right, and car up front. Constantly keeping a nice visual of what's going on around you. And it's all about the 360 safety, you could say, here on the 440. Now, the 440 is certainly a lot underneath this skin. It's not just about the beauty, but also the brains and the technology, not just here on the inside, but right here under the hood. Now, I'm not a big fan of the need for speed. Typically goes 0 to 45, never really creeping up and having fun, let's say, in the S-curves, but certainly this vehicle can deliver, and it does so, well, with smart technologies, keeping everyone safe. Now, what we specifically have here under the hood is a 3.0 liter inline 6-cylinder, turbocharged, of course, delivering around about 382 horses and 369 foot-pounds of torque. Now, 0 to 60 numbers, just in case you need them, 3.8 seconds. But the bigger number in me is stopping power, because certainly we can all get up and go. But when it comes to safety, we want to be able to, let's say, stop on a dime. So 70 to 0 is basically done in just under 150 feet. So it's all about our get up, but also about stopping power. Now, when it comes to safety, it's much more than the things we can see. Certainly we have the sensors, the backup cameras, the technology at our fingertips inside, but there's obviously things that we don't see that is beneath the skin. Now, first off, what you're going to see if we do a little cutaway of this area, over here on the side, you can see it's like the shoulder pads in football. Nice absorption area. Really, obviously, this facade just dressing things up. As you sweep around, you could say things get a little bit more beefy, because here at the back end, you don't have a huge amount of crumple zone space like you would have at the front. Here at the back, it's got to be able to take a solid impact. That's exactly what the 440 is designed to do. Really, right through here, you're going to see a huge amount of steel structure, basically nice and robust. This giving a nice polished look, but if you take that away, the skeleton, well, would wow you. You could say the 440 is all about, first glance on the outside, the engine, and naturally when you get on the inside, first looks going right to this nice oversized touchscreen system. Now, it does have this split look, mapping entertainment and your communication over here on the right. It is touch screen, but you also have the knob down below. I tended to use one of the two interchangeably. Now, if you want to go full screen, just simply click right there, goes to your entertainment. You can scroll right through here. Now, another nice feature is it does have this kind of motion activated technology, which pretty much, if you want to turn the volume up, just go like that. Now, I do tend to talk with my hands quite a bit, even when I'm driving, and while that did make the radio go up unexpectedly, so you may have to keep your hands on the steering wheel. That may be another safety feature that BMW is building in. Down below, what you're going to see here is climate control, dual zones, and dual temperature with fan speed, pretty much allowing the driver and passenger to kind of create their own comfort zones independently. Everything really done with these buttons here, even right down to fan speed, as well as the mode selects on either side. Keeping everything nice and sleek is this cover here. Just one press, it does tuck back. You will find dual cup holders, as well as this nice wireless charging area. It does hold almost any size device like my phone, even with the case, and in just a couple seconds to let you know it's charging right up. You're not going to find a manual option for the 440i, but I say that, well, this technology with the automatic is, well, what I prefer anyway. It tends to be smarter than me, both when it comes to safety and driving capability, so let's just let the vehicle do it. Now, to operate it, just simply pull back with the button here on the side, go to drive, obviously push forward to reverse, and what you're going to see is a little indicator down below giving you all the, well, driving components of where you're switching to. Now, this is the central knob that allows you to control the operation there on the touch screen, as well as some various shortcuts up here. Now, if you're like me and you like the 0 to 45, well, there's just a couple options you're going to want to look at for the Comfort and Eco Pro driving modes. But if you do like a little bit more boot, scoot, and boogie, well, certainly you have some more different driving dynamics. Now, it's really easy to use. Just simply press one of the buttons and it will pull it up. This one being the Comfort, press the Sport, and you have tons of options from the Sport Standard, Sport Plus, and the individual, which means you go into configuration and set this up exactly how you feel. The other one being the adaptive, this one being the smart side of this BMW, allowing it to adapt to the various vehicle settings. This one being the Eco Pro, again, is up my alley, allowing it to be a little bit more conscious and, well, save some around the fuel economy. Now, the LCD isn't just reserved over there to the center of the dash, but over here to the gauge cluster. Everything housed in a digital format, from analog, tach, and speedometers being switched over to the digital. Right there in the middle, nice readout of navigation. Now on the right side, now there's some various functions you can change from, give you up-to-date information as you scroll through, even right down to your entertainment. Over here on the left, what you'll notice is the blue indicator. That's reminding you that you're in the Eco Pro mode, which is down there below. Now certainly when you switch over, you're going to get a little bit more dynamic. When you go to Sport, go to Comfort, the colors change. Again, these technologies are allowing the driver to really interface with what's going on, and again, at a glance, know exactly what the vehicle's doing. Now, I mentioned earlier about the smart headlights, and that can be found right here in the form of this button. Just turn the auto on, auto off headlights when it comes to brights. That really allows this vehicle to turn them on when needed, when there's no vehicle coming at you, and really lights up the road ahead. Tons of operation going on the steering wheel, and at a glance looks very simplified, but tons of robust systems going on here. Now on the right side, first off, is really going to be for your entertainment, volume control, typical operation here. You do have paddle shifters, so if you do want some added performance, certainly can engage those. On the left, this, a lot more going on than it alludes to. This really being the smart system when it comes to cruise, and you have various options. First off, you have these distance controls. Again, allows this vehicle to set the spacing when in traffic, but the mode select is probably the biggest difference I saw here. Once you press that, what you're going to have is the option between assisted driving and distance control. Assisted driving, what that does is obviously make this vehicle aware that you're in a lane, and it's going to help you counter steer when you should veer left or right, really allowing you to, well, lessen the fatigue when driving maybe on long distances. But if you don't prefer that, you can just simply go with the distance control. But really all of it activated right here, and you'll see all the indicators there on the gauge cluster reminding you of what you're doing. One thing about safety is really heads up, eyes on the road, and certainly with everything going on in this vehicle, you can be distracted, but BMW goes one step further with their heads up display, having lots of information there at a glance, obviously with the speed limit, the digital readout for your speed, as well as when you change various functions, for example, changing the radio, well, that's going to be right there on the right side that you can look at, again, without moving your eyes away from the road. Sometimes in a coupe, putting the seatbelt alone can be an arduous task because, well, it's so far back on that B pillar, but thankfully here on the 440, the seatbelt extends out. Once you buckle it up, it'll retract out of the way. Now, one thing about headrests, we're all used to the fact that they go up and down, but sometimes they just don't find the comfort level because they don't extend out where the passenger or driver may need them. But thankfully here on the 440, we have this button. Just simply press it and it will extend forward, really meeting the driver or passenger where they need it specifically, or just simply pull it back and retract back as needed. Front seats are going to be standard sport style seating, though I like the fact that they're not over bolstered, pretty much meaning they can equal opportunity anyone that sits there, not too tight, feeling very comfortable. Have some added support here in the thigh region. Just simply pull this manual device and it will extend out. That is for both front occupants. As for adjustments, going to find tons of them here on the side with the typical forward and backward, as well as some extra support here on the outer side. Now, I mentioned earlier about the overall size of this vehicle really boding well for interior comfort, and where you're going to see it is in the front, just under 42 inches of legroom. Backseat drivers, not going to be too bad, are just under 35 inches, basically meaning you're going to find decent overall feel with a little bit extra room up front, moving those seats forward. As for styling, you're going to find individualized attention on the outer sides, room enough for two, of course. Proverbial hump there in the middle, not going to be obviously for a passenger, and a nice center console to flip down should you need it. One thing you typically don't see on a coupe is a tri-zone system, really with comfort all the way around this vehicle, even here at the back, with backseat drivers able to dial in their specific overall comfort. Now, not dual zones back here to be expected, but just real simple to take the heat up or cool it down. Also have the various venting options over here on the side, as well as connectivity in the form of 2 USB-Cs. That does for this edition. We're in a test drive behind the wheel of the 2021 BMW M440i, a vehicle that truly delivered that coupe styling, but more notable is the safety and the robustness that this vehicle delivers. Has great exterior facade, but I'd say if we could get rid of all that and look at really how this vehicle is built, that would give us the true reassurance that this vehicle delivers on all points: fun and safety. Now, as always, thank you for watching this edition of Road Warrior. Keep both hands on the wheel and eyes straight ahead.